Welcome, everybody, to Brownsville Tech Live. And in a few minutes here, he just stepped away for a little bit. We've got former Mayor Pat Ahumada, and he is currently running for mayor for 2023. So he's stepping in through the door here, and here he is, Mr.
I'm
Pat.
sorry. What's up?
No, we're actually on, sir. I was actually introducing you to the audience. I told him you had to step away for a second. But, you are a former mayor. You served twice during the 1990s, I believe, and maybe the late 2000s. I can't remember. But you are a two-term mayor, and you are currently running this year on the ballot for mayor once again. So, Mr. Omada, for those viewers that don't know you, could you give us a little bit of background with regards to who you are, what you've done, where you've been, and so forth?
Well, Daniel, thank you for having me. First of all, I don't know how much time we have, but there's a lot to cover. I got involved with politics, but I saw a lot of unrest, and the city was going in the wrong direction back in the 90s. Back then, the city had a deficit of 2 million, which was not being reported, was not known at the time. And we had really no fund balance. We were headed for financial disaster, bankruptcy, if we didn't take corrective action. And I was an unknown. I got involved. I got elected, and I brought some, some. I showed and I set a standard that if you do the right thing, you can make things happen and you can make things work. And I always stood up for the right thing. I always stood up against special interests. And we balanced the budget. We were able to sell bonds. We were able to build our reserves, balance the budget, and do many things. We built streets. We brought an airline. We did so many things. Moving fast forward in 2007, again, I got involved. I got elected, and again, we did a lot of good things. It's just it was like a calling for me, and it was based on, you don't have to play politics. Just do the right thing.
Right.
Politics is a compromise. Okay, that's what politics is all about. It's not about representing a special interest. It's about doing for the common good. So that was my mission. Now moving fast forward, I've seen where the city is right now, very unstable. A lot of bad things have been happening. Most recently, you have the PUB scam with the city, which cost taxpayers 125 million, or ratepayers, I should say, 125 million. And there was a lot of dissatisfaction. But before that, there were other scams. There was 1.2 million that was sent to the Cayman Islands, and they were in a bank account, and they were brought back, and the person was allowed to retire. That was the financial director at PUB. Then you had the other scam of 2.3 million, the Casa Nylon, that was only worth $400,000 or $500,000. Then there was another scam, 2.3 million, where land that was worth about 380,000, they paid $2.3 million. These are the special deals that are done based on insiders and special interests. And there's more scams than that. I was fortunate enough by like I said, by having the opportunity to serve, to expose some of these things or work on some of these things. Like for instance, developers were being subsidized at PUB to the tune of 91 million, and I exposed that. And by exposing it, we forced the developers to pay a more equitable share. And we were able to bring utility rates down. We brought tax rates down. We did a lot of good things, but that's based on doing what's right for the common good. But now I filed because I saw that the city was going in the wrong direction, and the choices there was actually people that are in the system with special interests. And that's what's hurting our city. That's what's holding our city back. You had Cowan, you had Tetro, which is tied to special interests. I didn't want to run. I prayed about it. I really didn't want to run. I'm 70 years old, going to be 71. I like my life the way it is, but I couldn't sit in the sidelines and let things continue to happen the way they're going. So I decided to throw my hat in the ring. I wrote the city in December 11th, 2022, and because I heard that they were going to apply a 2021 ordinance that they passed, which was a term limit ordinance where you could only serve two terms. And so I wrote them a letter in December 11th, 2022, to see if they were going to apply that, so I could make a decision whether to toss my hat in the ring or not, or go to district court and get a ruling. They never responded. Then I sent a letter again on January 9th with the same request. Hey, does the city intend to apply a 2021 ordinance to me to keep me from running? Because I am going to run. And they never responded. And in my letter, I said, look, if you don't respond, that means you're not going to apply it. Okay. So then when I filed for the position to be put in the ballot on February 16th, with the deadline being February 17th to qualify to be on the ballot, I submitted my application, got over 200 signatures, and I submitted to the city secretary's office. And I asked them, and they called me the next day in the morning. They told me twice. They called me twice and told me I qualified, but that I could go pick up a letter saying that I qualified to get on the ballot, that I was eligible. They called me twice. So then, but they told me to wait to get the next call for me to go pick up the letter. Then I get a call at 4:00, and it was a different person. They tell me, no, you're being disqualified based on the 2021 ordinance. So I went to the city, and they told me then, and it didn't sound right. It didn't feel right. And I felt like it was political. So, it was on the eve. So that night I couldn't find an attorney at 5:00. So being a manager of a law office for 10 years, I drafted a temporary restraining order to keep the city from getting me off the ballot. And I filed it pro se, but the judge felt like he had a conflict and he could not rule on it. So he sent it up to a district, 5th district, to appoint a judge, and they appointed a judge, and that judge didn't want to hear it because there was not enough time to hear it. So again, I had to, in haste, put something together, which was kind of unusual for a layman. I got, with the help of a friend, I got an appeal filed to the Texas Supreme Court. And those kind of appeals are hard to be accepted, but they did accept it. But again, based on the time constraints, they said, look, we're not going to rule on it, and they sent it back. So that left me out. They took me off the ballot. By applying this ordinance 2021 that passed, 32 years retroactively. They went back to 1991 when I served, and they said because you didn't serve, because you served in 1991, we're disqualifying. Well, that was a call made by one person, I believe, in conspiracy with the mayor and the two candidates who were running, and the city secretary and the attorney, to keep me off the ballot because they didn't want me to run. Why? Because I think I had pledged early on that if I got elected mayor, I was going to bring transparency, as I always have, and I was going to list the people that participated in the 125 million scam with Tenascan PUB, which is a project that I rejected when I was mayor because it was not a viable project. But they opened the doors when I left being mayor. So anyway, I was going to expose who had participated and who had benefited from this project, because you're talking about millions of dollars. And that I was going to push to ban those that benefited from this project, because nobody did anything for the citizens. They kept the project going to benefit personally. And I think that the citizens deserve accountability. Maybe I can't push to get somebody put in prison, but I can at least push to keep them from continuing to scam the city. because some of the same participants are the ones that participated in other scams before, like the 1 million scam with Imagine Brownsville. I know that person participated in the 125 million scam, and there's others. So, by not doing nothing, you're allowing them to come with the next project. And again, the ratepayers, taxpayers are paying for this. The next project that's on the horizon is the 729 acre industrial park development to the north of Brownsville. That's another scam. I can see it. I know it. Just like the Tanasca project, I filed complaints with the Attorney General telling them that this was a scam. It was ongoing, and it was being passed to the utility ratepayers with high utilities. The same thing's happening with this project that Cowan is pushing. It's not feasible. It's not viable. Brownsville's not that big. Even Corpus couldn't handle that kind of project. But that's why I think they want me off. So it's important for people and the citizens to understand what's happening, and that's the hard part, because we no longer have a radio station. We no longer have a TV station. We no longer have a newspaper. Actually, we don't have one. We used to have a newspaper with investigative reporters. Remember Emma Perez Trevino? We used to have the Valley Morning Star also here. We used to have El Bravo here. We no longer have that really to speak of. So citizens are in the dark. They don't know what's going on. And then for me, it's kind of hard, because even though they took me off the ballot, I went before the city commission. I told them what I was going to do, that I was going to urge people to rise up against the injustice. And that is by protesting, because this elite group that's in charge at City Hall right now, that I believe is corrupt, okay? They are selecting who you, the voter, should have for a mayor. It's not the voter selected. By removing me off the ballot, they're deciding con el dedazo who's going to be the next mayor, instead of leaving it up to the voters. Because going back 32 years, it's ridiculous. No law that is passed is retroactive 32 years. So I'm asking people to rise up to the injustice and protest this by writing me in Pat Ahumada for mayor on the ballot, or write in Mickey Mouse if you want to. But what I'm shooting for is getting enough voters to write me in. Okay, I calculate about 2,500 votes. It's doable. Remember, Tetra won on the write-in ballot. Okay,
Right.
If I can get people to write me in Pat Ahumada for mayor enough to make a difference on the count of the top two, okay, my attorney is ready to, with the lawsuit, to file and go before district court. Look, the people have spoken. He needs to be on the runoff ballot. Okay, that puts me back on the ballot. But it's tough work. It's hard work. I'm doing it myself. I'm funding it myself. And I'm not giving up, because I'm not giving up in Brownsville. I love my city so much. I've sacrificed a lot. I've been a target, and I'm still here. I'm still willing to stand up for the people of Brownsville. But it's not easy when the people don't know what's going on. So through you, Daniel, thank you for having me. I'm asking people, get informed. And you got nothing to lose. If you don't like the two choices, the primary choices that you have, write me in, Pat Ahumada for mayor. If we get enough votes, I promise you, I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight for you, and I will bring transparency. I will bring accountability, and I will make sure these kind of special interest deals don't happen on my watch. They didn't happen on my watch. I mean, this 125 million deal, I killed it when I was there. Yeah. Okay. So, and I was a good mayor. I got many things done. That you go to my Facebook page, you can see. I have a GoFundMe deal there, to where you can go deposit whatever you can afford, $5, $10, $20, everything helps for the legal fees, for mail outs, to educate people why it's important for them to rise up. This is your city. I can't do it alone, but you got to want good government. You got to demand accountability. You got to want transparency. Remember, I'm the one that brought prayer to the city commission. And I brought it because I feel very strongly, Daniel. I'm not a religious person,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm there to do the Lord's work,
Mm-hmm.
okay, for the common good of the citizens,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And I think I've done that both times. Now I brought prayer. I televised. It was unheard of back then. I televised the city meetings to bring transparency and accountability. It hasn't been easy, but if you look at my record, I brought Continental Airlines back then when we had no passenger service.
I do
I
remember that.
introduced. You remember that? I introduced the police substations when even the police union opposed me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I paved streets. I got $100 million in grants for replacing all the sewer lines when we were going to get zero. Okay, and I did that with one phone call. Why? Because I was a full-time mayor. This is a full-time job. These people that you're looking at, they're doing it for the resume. They're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this Brownsville deserves more. And it's not for what I can get or what kind of deal I can work for or what kind of my buddies and special interests can have a piece of the pie and enrich themselves. When an attorney makes 1.9 million off the Tenasca project, and he's not even a utility attorney, there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, this is an injustice. And people have to get mad and say, hey, we deserve better. And I want Pat Ahumada back at City Hall. We're going to file a lawsuit regardless.
Okay.
But with the signatures enough there, we stand a chance to perhaps go before the court and say that people have spoken. We need Pat on the ballot of the runoff election. You got, I think, 4 candidates running. And I think out of the 4, you don't make one Pat Ahumada. I guarantee you.
Yeah. Well, sir, I wanted to ask you, did you ever consider, I think that one of the things I had heard was that you did have an opportunity to run for a city commission seat, that if you weren't able to get on the ballot for mayor, there would have been a possibility that you could have run for a commission seat. Did you ever consider that, considering that, as my understanding, every commissioner and the mayor have an equal vote on the commission? Did you ever consider running for?
Well, everyone's entitled to a vote. But let me tell you what the mayor's job is, and I did it both times.
Uh-huh.
The mayor's job is to provide the guidance,
Yeah.
set the pace, and give direction. That's a leader. I'm a leader. And both times, when everything was against me, like for instance, when we had a deficit of 2 million when I took over the mayorship, everybody opposed me. The county bridge was Tony Garza back then.
Mm.
Okay, it was costing us $500,000 to patrol, and I asked the county to take over the bridge patrol because we couldn't afford to pay for that. They refused to do it. I forced them to do it. That saved the city $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
The university was getting a lot of free stuff. I stopped that. I balanced the budget by making the tough decisions as mayor. And I used the pulpit of mayor to bring attention to that. As commissioner, I'm there to support my mayor. Okay? You have to work with it, providing it's for the common good. The mayor's going to set the pace. The mayor's going to give direction. And I have to respect that as a commissioner. But to get back to your question, have I considered it? I couldn't, because remember, in order to qualify, you got to get signatures. That's one of the requirements. And I got 200 signatures for mayor, not for commissioner.
You can transfer those over to the other position.
I don't think you can, because people that sign there, they say, hey, the petition is for mayor, not for commissioner.
I see.
And that's one of the reasons. The other reason is I felt that it was not right to Susan Rubalcaba, who I don't know, She had agreed and she had thrown her hat into the ring to run for at large, okay?
Right. So
I felt like maybe they wanted to divide that because she's not connected to special interests or whatever. I don't know her. I really don't know her. I think I've talked to her twice. And I'm not saying vote for her. I'm not saying don't vote for her. I'm just saying I don't think it was right for for them to use me to divide her. I didn't know enough about her to make a decision right there on the spot. So it wasn't a matter of, hey, well, you don't have to be mayor. You can run for committee. No, I applied for mayor and they approved me, Daniel.
Yeah.
They approved me. They called me, the city secretary called me and said, you qualified.
Yeah.
What changed between the morning and 4:00? They were plotting on how to keep me off the ballot by applying a far-fetched rule or law or ordinance, call it what you will, 32 years back. That is wrong.
Yeah.
That is wrong. It's illegal. It's improper. It's unethical, and they are corrupt. And I'm saying it here, and I say it to their face. Why? Because they're incompetent. Okay, they serve special interests, and they don't want me in there because they don't want people to know what's going on at City Hall.
Yeah.
Today, I had a person call me. He had a cat. I'm a pet lover.
I know.
He had a cat that he lost, and he found that they had it on the website at the animal shelter. Okay, so he went to inquire about his cat. They couldn't tell him about his cat. They couldn't say nothing. Well, what happened to him? We don't know. Now, how incompetent can you be? That cat, there's an intake. Okay, there's a number issued. Okay, and it's tracked. The cat was chipped. They should have called him to go pick it up. I bet you they killed him because they're not doing their job and nobody's holding them accountable. Me as mayor, whether it's a cat or whether it's to pave your streets or whether it's to revitalize downtown, okay? Mm-hmm. I know what needs to be done. And I'm going to be on top of it to get it done. These people don't care about you. They won't even return your call. You called Trey Mendez, who proved to me to be spineless. He's an attorney. Okay, he's an attorney. He should know better that you can't go back 32 years. For him to go along with this, because they could easily, Daniel, call the meeting and added clarity to the ordinance that they passed in 2021 and said it's the ordinance was passed for the future. From that moment on, as it should be for the future. If you serve two consecutive terms, then you cannot serve again, okay, for that position. That's what they could have done very easily by calling a meeting. No, they chose not to. Why? Because they didn't want me. So he turned out to be spineless. Then you got the city attorney, both of which I'm going to file a complaint with the state bar because they know ethically what they did was wrong and they need to be held accountable. I won't stop. They mess with the wrong person. You don't poke the bear. I'm easy to get along with. Let's work for the community. Let's do what's right for the community. But don't poke the bear and expect them to roll over because I'm not that type of person. I fight for the people and I stand for what's right. And they have come at me, Daniel, and you've seen it many times. Okay? It's like when they came after me with the sweepstakes. You remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember you had a business.
And they paraded me with the arrest and all that. Remember this, okay? The city gave me the permit. The police told me it was legal. The district attorney at that time told me it was legal, and they gave me the permit. Then this DA, Luis Saenz, decides I'm a target. He goes after me. What does he tell Carmen's? And he tells Angels over there in Four Corners to close down because he's going to do a raid. He gives them the opportunity to close down. They don't give me the opportunity. They want to target me. And before that, I put it in writing. I went to the police chief and asked him, is there an issue? I had a $200,000 investment there. I asked him, is there an issue? I'll close down voluntarily. He says, let me get back to you. You know how they got back to me? By raiding me and arresting me. Now, okay, you did it. You got me. But I did nothing wrong. And I can look you in the eye and tell you I did nothing wrong. And their actions prove that the ones that did wrong is them. Because why didn't they raid Carmen's or Angels that been around for 15 years? I just opened and I got the permits, okay? Because I was targeted. Okay. Now, let's go retroactively and apply the law now and go arrest them today. Yeah. Hey, you were illegal all this time, and we're going to apply the law to you. That's the same thing they're doing to me with term limits. They're applying an ordinance, a 2021 ordinance, 32 years back.
Right.
If you're going to do that, then you can apply any law. and say, hey,
Let's
the speed limit was 30, now it's 25. Now we're going to go and fine you because you 10 years ago you were speeding 30 miles an hour. That is wrong.
let's focus a little bit on what you mentioned. And I don't know if the citizens out there know. I mean, they know a lot about Tanasca and what happened and the 129 million or the 29 million or whatever it was. But you
125
mentioned,
million.
yeah, you mentioned back that when you were in office, you were first approached with regards to, I guess, the idea, right? Can you give us some insight into what the concern was with regards to utilities at the time that even caused them to approach you first and then obviously subsequent administrations after the fact? Were we going to run out of electricity? Because I think that's what the whole thing was all about, right? I mean, what was the point from the very get-go? I mean, I hear that we were going to run out of electricity, that there was forecasts and projections that we were going to run out of
We were never
electricity.
going to run out. We were never going to run out of electricity. Look, very simple. When they want something, they'll tell you the way they want you to hear it.
Yeah,
They expect you not to be informed,
yeah,
and they'll pull the wool over your eyes. Very simple. Does Magic Valley own a power plant? It didn't for many years. They buy electricity off the grid. We were
right.
never going to run out. Okay. But let me tell you the story very briefly. We used to own what's called the SCADA system at the power plant on Silas Ray on 13th Street over there in West
Yes,
Brownsville.
correct.
We had a SCADA system. The SCADA system was to buy and sell power from what we generated or if we needed. Tenasca came and convinced us to get rid of the SCADA system. Okay. And they would take over and do that service for us at a low cost. That's how it all started. We're the ones that made Tenasca because that's how they got started. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Moving fast forward, we built, no, we bought interest into power plants in Edinburgh and Oakland Union. Okay.
Right.
Enough to supply us. And if we didn't have enough, Tenasca would provide us the extra that we needed through the grid, okay, for that little sum that we need that would cost us. So we were never going to be. So then they came up with this harebrained idea, Tenasca did, that we should build a power plant, okay, 800 megawatt power plant. And what they wanted to do is in joint venture with PUB in the city. When it was brought to me back then as mayor, I said no. And I think you can guess why. First of all, we're municipally owned. Tenasca is privately owned, okay? In other words, the citizens guarantee the debt that you're going to issue. We get special rates because we're a municipality. We have insurance. We have all this stuff that Tenasca, as a private company, was going to benefit by us being the owners, okay, being the partners.
Mm-hmm.
I said, why? We don't need Tenasca. We can do it ourselves if we needed it. Or invite somebody like Magic Valley, okay? Or invite Harlingen, or, there's different scenarios if we wanted to do it. We did not need a private investor like Tenasca to be our partner and benefit from what we get. So I said, no. Tony Martinez came around, poked everybody's eyes, and they elected me out. I wanted to build the Weir, and of course, I didn't want to do Tenasca. There was plenty of projects, the revitalization downtown, stuff like that. Okay, so Tony promised them the moon. Turned out to be the worst mayor, along with this one. Okay, by the way, poked everybody's eyes. So they opened the door to corruption. One of them being Tenasca. Okay, now we were their partners. They went to the city commission. The city commission didn't do their due diligence, and they approved it. And they raised the rates like 40% and passed that on to the citizens to pay for the project. So they collected like 125 million. They started buying right away. Every year, you can look back, I filed complaints. I asked for open records as to the status of the project. I filed complaints with the Attorney General, okay? And I told them it was a scam. But again, the power of the municipality quashed me.
Mm-hmm.
They said, no, we can't reveal none of this because it's sensitive and we don't want the competition to know what we're doing. All this time, they knew it was not a viable project.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept collecting the utility rates that went up. And they kept spending it, like 1.9 million for an attorney, who just one attorney that's not even a utility attorney. Mm-hmm. Then the other attorneys, then the engineers, then all these other people were collecting money and they kept pushing the project. It was supposed to have been built by a certain date, and it wasn't built, and they kept pushing the date, and people kept collecting money. Now, this is exactly like the bridge to nowhere. You remember the bridge to nowhere?
I've heard of the term. I can't remember which bridge it was. But
it was the Port of Brownsville. It was the Port of Brownsville. They collected $23 million to build a bridge over there at the Port of Brownsville. Mm-hmm. It was supposed to be a binational bridge, but they didn't have a partner. Mexico never approved the bridge.
Okay.
And they collected $23 million. They spent it, and there was no bridge. It was never going to be built. Mm-hmm. The same thing happened with the PUB Tenasca power plant. It was never going to be built. They just milked it, and they still milk it.
Yeah. Now, sir, with regards, now, looking back, and obviously there's a lot of pressure to have the money returned. How can they do that, equitably? I mean, I know that here in my neighborhood, I'm probably one of the biggest hoggers of electricity compared to everybody else. How can they do that equitably to every ratepayer? Because some people pay more than others. I mean, I'm still trying to wrap myself around the whole concept of how a refund or a return would occur. Have you given any thought as to how it should happen?
Yes, sir. First of all, let me tell you, it's almost impossible to return the money.
Okay.
There's not much money left. Anyway, they already spent like 100 million. Let's say there's 25 million left. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that 25 million is already guaranteeing bonds.
Okay.
So because it's guaranteeing it, it's hard to say, I want to write a cash for 25 million and return it to 84,000 homes in the city of Brownsville, or 54,000 homes. I think that's more accurate. 54,000 homes that are on the grid of PUB. I'm going to return them an equitable amount. It's almost impossible. I'm not saying it's not possible. I say it's almost impossible because that money's already tied up. Okay, they tied it up. Okay, my thinking, and I'm open to, good leaders open to, better ideas. But my thinking is the way they raise their rates 40%. Okay, then you have this money of 25 million collecting interest. Okay, why can't we lower the rate? Maybe not the full 40%. Let's say 20%. Let's say 30%. Okay, on every PUB customer. Some are already moved on. If you rented an apartment and you bought a house, you're no longer a renter, or you no longer live in the city of Brownsville, or your business closed, you're not going to get your money back. Okay, but the existing customers, we're going to lower your rate by 20%. Mm-hmm. And as we lower your rate, our shortfall at PUB is going to be minus 20%. Mm-hmm. So then we got a right to take 20% from what's generating income with interest from the 25 million to offset the discount we're giving the citizens of Brownsville. It'll be over a gradual period of time till the 25 million runs out.
Right.
That's the only way I see that we could do something to bring relief to the ratepayer and make it equitable.
Now, let me ask you this other question, and it's with regards to the transfer of funds from PUB to the city. There's some people that say, well, that needs to happen because the city's expenses are a lot higher than they used to be, and if we didn't do that, we would have to raise property taxes, or we would have to cut police services or ambulances or stuff like that. How did the city always receive money from PUB, or did that start at some point? And why did it start? Do you have any idea with regards to that?
Daniel, the good thing about me is that I bring experience, okay, and I bring history. Back in the 90s, like I tell you, I inherited a deficit. A deficit. Imagine a deficit of the city, 2 million, and no reserves, $54,000 reserves, no street sweepers, no airline. We had a lot of issues to contend with. Back then, the PUB's contribution to the city was 700,000. That was it, and it
Wow.
was historical, 700,000, very low. And what was happening with PUB, and what I saw happening with PUB, they were spending the money on themselves. They were the Mercedes, and we were the Chevrolet. The city was the Chevrolet, and the PUB was the Mercedes. In other words, they saw the money coming in. They would spend it to make sure that they had nothing left to give to the city,
Hmm.
but 700,000 historically for many, many, many years. Okay, I fought very hard against that. I said, wait a minute, we're the father. We own the utility company, city,
Hmm.
and you're only giving us. That's not a fair return
Hmm.
to help us keep the taxes down. So I demanded 10%. And I fought back then. Lee Kirkpatrick, uh, Carl Shilton, uh, David over there, the owner of Country Casuals. I fought them tooth and nail
Those are old
because,
names, by the way.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, we had some, but very respectfully, very
Yeah.
respectfully, very respectfully. It was a good fight. It was a
Yeah.
good fight. And the satisfaction was that we got the city a 10%.
Hmm.
Finally, that was more equitable. But instead of the city using it to lower the property tax, it has gone on a spending spree. They use that to spend the money.
Hmm.
Now they become what the PUB used to be, the Mercedes.
Hmm.
The more they get, the more they're going to spend on special projects on this other, and they're not lowering the tax rate. I lowered the tax rate. I provided that leadership from 75 cents to 65 cents by balancing the budget and paying. We paid the price and we lowered the tax rate. That gave property relief. Right now, that's a different issue. But the thing is, I think this what we historically have seen. If you get a Pat Ahumada in charge as mayor and oversees that, you have some kind of accountability and transparency, and some kind of semblance of fairness.
Hmm.
But the way it's been right now, there's no fairness.
Hmm.
PUB does whatever the hell he wants. Look at that big palace they're building. We don't need it, but they're
I didn't
spending the
even know they
money.
were building a building until after the fact.
Yeah, I mean that's how they're spending the money.
Yeah.
Okay, because they can spend it. That needs to stop. So what I've seen is bad management of the city. We don't have a professional city manager.
Yeah.
We have an errand girl. That's what we have. She's going to do what they tell them to do. Because you probably don't know this. Before I even considered running for mayor, I wrote them a letter when the city manager left because I didn't like the previous city manager, Noé Bernal, which I thought was doing a bad job. But again, I think I was a little harsh in my judgment because he was doing what they wanted him to do. He was an errand boy. You can't manage a city like that, you know? So I wrote a letter back in, I think, July or June. And I told the city commission, I said, I will, listen to this, I will manage the city for free for 1 year. For 1 year. And I will put the city and make you look good on track, and I'll make you look good.
Hmm.
I will work for you and I will make you look great
Hmm.
because I know what needs to be done. I know the city better than they do. Okay.
Hmm.
They never responded. Why? Because they don't want somebody to do the job. They want, they're not experts and they want things done that is beyond their scope. It's beyond their pay grade. Okay.
Now,
Let me tell you,
hmm,
I only have one condition. Right? You know what the condition was? No micromanagement.
hmm,
That's all I wanted. I said, now, and I gave many examples of my accomplishments as a leader. with the help of those that supported me. We got a lot of things done. I said, now, if you want something done, Daniel, you're on the commission, you want a bicycle lane.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's beyond the scope of the management. This is a pet project that you want. I'm gonna tell you no.
Mm-hmm.
Because where do I draw the line? The next one wants another pet project, and I'm gonna fund it. I'm gonna take away from paving streets to make your pet project happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take away from somebody's gotta pay for it. Okay.
Right.
So my condition was no micromanagement. But if you have something that you want me to do that I'm telling you no, bring it to the commission. If it passes by the commission, okay, then as city manager, I have an obligation to carry out the policy, whether I like it or not.
Right.
That was my only condition.
So, sir, because you're like you said, you bring a lot of history. You've been around for a long time. Could you kind of explain to us the role of the mayor as a ex officio, or I don't know what they call it, on the
Yeah, ex
PUB
officio member of PUB.
of the PUB board, and how do you believe that the previous mayor failed in that role? I don't know what the ex officio does or what he's supposed to do. When all this Tanasca stuff was going on, I mean, what is the role of the ex officio, and how does it even make a difference?
Well, Daniel, first let me tell you, the PUB is run like the city. You have a board, you have an agenda, it's publicized, it's televised, and anybody can go to the meetings. The ex officio is a seat on the board that is given to the mayor, mm-hmm. Because the city owns the PUB. So he's entitled to be at the table automatically. He's not appointed. He was elected as mayor, so he's got an ex officio seat to be part of the board of PUB. Okay, what the problem historically, before and after I left, is that people forget, and I'll go back and tell you, remind you what I said. I'm there to serve my Lord, and I'm there to serve the citizens of Brownsville. If we keep those two things, that's why I brought prayer to the city commission, to bring some kind of semblance that, hey, we're not here for ourselves. We have a responsibility, and we have an opportunity to impact a whole city for the good. Okay, if we go with that mind to serve, you can't go wrong. You might make mistakes, but they're not with malice. They are in the service. Okay, so what's happened there is that people go in there with agendas, personal agendas, and they go in with connections with people that they love you, take you to the ranch hunting. I turn down trips. They love you taking out to dinner and telling you, I want this and I want that. And you, hey, I like the guy. Or he donated to my campaign. And you give him the store. That's the problem. That's why I think historically, going back to what we were talking earlier about the PUB, historically, the PUB, they appoint people who are not qualified to be on the board. They have no clue about business, or they have no clue about utility companies.
That.
Yeah,
you know, there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah, they have no clue, and they're hacks. Maybe nice people, maybe very nice people, but if you don't know what the hell you're doing there, you shouldn't be there. Okay. Yeah. And if you can't make the tough decisions like a judge, if you can't make the tough decisions, then you shouldn't be a judge. Okay. Yeah. If you're worried about the politics, you know, only to a certain point. Don't sell your soul. I value my soul. So my position right now is, because they have proven that they're not good managers, and the city is not a good overseer. Yeah. And the ex officio ain't worth a damn. Yeah. If he's not going to do his job. Okay. Yeah. He's going to go along because he doesn't want to rock the boat. Okay. I think we should dismantle PUB and create a board authority, a utility board authority, separated from the city. Yeah. Which means the citizens vote for the board members, is not appointed by the city commission just because they're friends. You run for the position.
Kind of like
and you
the
better
navigation
qualify.
district, right? Kind of like the
Yeah,
navigation district.
yeah.
Yeah,
But you know, you got to have some qualifications to serve on the board.
right.
You know.
It's my understanding that the current board is chaired by a restaurant owner.
Well, he may be a good. I don't know. He may be a good chairman. I don't know. Let me tell you something, Daniel. Everybody criticized me because I was a shrimper.
Yeah,
I graduated by taking correspondence courses on a shrimp boat.
yeah,
I've been self-taught, but I'm smart.
yeah,
So don't discount the restaurant owner.
yeah.
But if he doesn't do his job, do his due diligence, doesn't prepare, doesn't, or just going to go along to get along, he's worthless.
Right.
Okay,
So,
so you
so,
know they're good people,
so in your
but
opi-
unfortunately,
so in your opinion, sir, do you think that Tony Martinez, being the ex officio at the time that all of this came about, didn't do his job? I mean, he obviously would have known that the Tenasco plant wasn't going to be built long before anybody else did. Uh, do you think that it was
he,
a failure on
he
his
sold
part?
his soul to the devil. That man sold his soul to the devil. He wasn't there representing the city; he was representing himself.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Casa Nylon. I said no to the Casa Nylon.
Mm-hmm.
I said no. I'm an appraiser. I'm a real estate appraiser. I have one of the highest license. I have the highest license in the state of Texas. I'm a general certified appraiser. They brought me that sale
Mm-hmm.
when I was mayor, and I said no. I told Ben Medina that property is not worth 2.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
We killed it right there.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Martinez got in. He let it in because it's his money.
Mm-hmm.
The man sold his soul. He was worthless as a mayor. He promised everybody. Then you have the other project, the other that I'm sure you don't know about. And you should get mad. People should get mad about this.
Mm-hmm.
There's land on the other side of the wall, border wall. I have the appraisal right there. The city paid 2.3 million. It's only worth like $380,000, and it's got no water rights. You can't develop it because it's on the other side of the wall, so you can't get permits to subdivide it and sell lots and build homes.
Mm-hmm.
You can't farm it because it's got no water rights. And again, they paid $2.3 million.
Wow.
That's Tony Martinez. That's Tony Martinez. So it was all about him. Whether it was the housing, whether it was PUB, whether it was the economic development, it was all about Tony and his little group. And the same thing with Trey. Look at Trey. Look at it. He got caught with his hands in the cookie jar. And let me ask you, Daniel, let me ask you this. We're talking about millions.
Yeah.
And Pat Ahumada gets a check from his dining room table,
Right.
okay? Doesn't know it's not his, goes to the bank 3 blocks away, is in a rush to catch a plane to go to Mexico City for the city on the Weir project, gives a check to the teller. The teller looks at the check and sees I'm not the payee. And instead of returning the check to me and saying, Mr. Ahumada, you're not the payee, that would have ended everything. No, the teller takes it. I didn't do it. The teller took it upon himself to fill out the deposit slip, deposit the check into my account, knowing I'm not the payee without a supervisor's approval.
Mm-hmm.
Then 2-3 weeks later, I get a call. Mayor, you got a check in your account. Return it. What did they do? What did Carlos, and I can say this publicly because it's true. What did Carlos Garcia, who in my opinion was corrupt, the chief of police, what did he do? He went after me.
Mm-hmm.
I heard he went first to the FBI. They turned it down because there was no crime. The money was returned immediately. There was no crime. These SOBs put me through 2 trials in my family, okay, with the possibility of 30 years in prison. Listen to this. And there's no track history, no record of me being that kind of person where I benefited from the city, whether a relative or friend got hired because I was mayor, none. Or whether I got somebody to buy land that the city was going to do a project or something and cut me a deal, none of that. There's no history of that.
Right.
They were looking to send me 30 years. I went to 2 trials. It cost me $200,000.
Wow,
Okay,
I had
and
forgotten
the
about that story, sir.
okay,
But now you're
and,
jiggling my memory. I remember that.
and, and Daniel, you know what the plea was? You know what the plea they offered me? They told me, if you accept responsibility, we'll let you walk and there'll be no record. That's an attractive proposal. I was risking 30 years. You know what I told them?
Mm-hmm.
FY.
Mm-hmm.
I told them, I'm not going to leave a legacy for my children that I'm a thief.
Mm-hmm.
And I rolled the dice going before a jury twice because I knew that if I went to prison, I was going to kill myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had already made up my mind
Mm-hmm.
because there was an injustice. What Carlos Garcia was doing to me was targeting me because of my politics.
Mm-hmm.
And I have proof of that. I got a letter from somebody from inside the DA. It's right there. I got it. They told me what they did to me and how they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all over my politics. So I've been a target. And if I'm willing to run again with all this, they come after me, whether it was a sweepstakes, whether it was a check, whether it was a DWI, and I'm willing to take all that for the citizens of Brownsville, that should tell you something. I care about my city
Yeah.
because I don't need this.
Yeah.
I don't need this.
Now,
And you know
sir.
something?
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Finish your statement.
One of the things that Tony Martinez did very well, he published a picture where I'm arrested. He got people to talk, the DWIs. Okay. Well, let me tell you something. I can talk about it. I just recently came to terms with it and I can talk about it. Before I couldn't even talk about it. I lost my daughter in 1986 right here in the pool. She drowned. That devastated me.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, sir.
No. That devastated me. I wanted to die. In fact, I tried to commit suicide. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't handle the grief. I couldn't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
A year later, my daughter died. I mean, my wife died. She wanted to die. The same thing. She couldn't handle the grief. I told her, let's go for therapy. We couldn't deal with this.
Right.
You can't imagine. Other parents have gone through what we went through. They handled it better than we did, obviously, but we couldn't handle it. Okay. So then my wife dies a year later. I get 2 WIs. I drank a lot, but I paid the price.
Mm-hmm.
But don't judge me. And that has nothing to do with running a city. I paid the price and God forgave me. I can talk about it now. Before I couldn't even talk. I couldn't even. But I've come to terms with it, thank the Lord. And I found some peace after all these years. I've been tormented. It's been a demon for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I can talk about it now. And the thing is, I'm here willing to stand up for Brownsville. And these SOBs, like Trey Mendez, William or Guillermo Trevino, the city attorney, Cowan, and all those people who don't want me on the ballot, shame on them because they're cheating to get where they want, and they won't be blessed for it. They will not be blessed for it because what they did, they know was wrong. It was illegal. You don't go retroactively 32 years. That is the most ridiculous thing. You know what else? They're running scared because guess who filed a complaint against me recently? Last week, Roy de los Santos.
Mm-hmm.
Roy de los Santos is not even running.
Mm-hmm.
Why would he file a complaint against me for my signs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because he's being the errand boy for Cowan.
Mm-hmm.
He wants Cowan to be mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, what's his complaint? That I'm putting signs when I'm not on the ballot? I'm entitled to put signs. You're a property owner. You give me permission to put on your sign, my sign on your property. It's private property. I can put up the sign. And I put on the sign, protest, write in Pat Ahumada for mayor. You can do that. You can even write in Mickey Mouse if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
You can write wherever you want.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing illegal with that. But they're afraid that enough people are going to write me in and it's going to show that they did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And God be with us.
Now, sir, what's your take on the current downtown revitalization projects down there? You know, there is people out there in the city that believe that it's only benefiting a few. And, I mean, what is your take on downtown? I mean, there's no parking down there. I mean, even if you if you go down there to eat or drink, for example. I can tell you right now, you struggle to find parking. Our parking garage is being occupied, but I don't by who knows who. There's some people advocating we should just get rid of the parking meters altogether since we can't even park. I mean, what is your take on the current revitalization that's occurring? And who does it really benefit? Does it benefit everybody or a few, like some people say it does? I mean, what's your take?
Well, let me tell you, we started the revitalization downtown in the 90s when I was mayor. That's when we
Yeah,
started the revitalization. It's been a slow process.
yeah,
One of the things that we did accomplish, we bought a bunch of properties
uh huh,
and we built the bus station,
right,
the terminal. Okay.
right,
We moved that. Okay. This is a project that I love very much. It's been part of me since I was mayor in 1990s, but they're not approaching it right.
yeah,
Okay. The Weir project, which was 30 years old now, I made it into a binational project. It was not a binational project. It's doable. If you build the weir, nobody followed. After I left, nobody followed up on this project. If you build the weir, the water level is going to come up on the Rio Grande, and you can build a river walk downtown. Okay?
right,
We went and met with Sam Marasco in San Diego and brought him in to help us with this project. He's still on it, by the way. But
yes,
it's been a long process. And the reason it's been a long process is because you don't have a leader there to get it done. The project is a good project. The problem is these guys, this mayor's an idiot. I hate to say it, but it's a hobby to be a mayor and it's good to have it on your resume, but they don't put the time. And if you can't invest the time, why do you want to be mayor? This is a full-time job. Okay. Now they want to get paid. I did it for free. And I was willing to manage the city for free
and
for
we'll
one
get
year.
to that question later.
Okay. But let me tell you downtown. Downtown is special because my idea of downtown is closing from Ninth Street on Elizabeth to 13th Street.
Okay,
You close it. You make it into an outdoor mall.
okay,
Come on. You know what I'm talking about?
yes, 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 yes.
You close it. Okay. And then on Washington and Adams, Washington, you're going to invert the traffic in a different direction. Okay. You're going to have to get your engineers to coordinate the traffic to get on the bridge. It can be done. But what I want to do is build, I mean, have the parking on a diagonal basis,
Hmm.
not horizontal.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay. You're going to fit a lot more cars.
Okay,
You're going to fit a lot more cars.
yeah, and I
Okay.
can't parallel park, so I don't like parallel parking.
Okay. So, I mean, just imagine it on Levy and on Washington, you have diagonal parking. And on the sides also, on the sides there,
Yeah,
the connecting streets, across the streets, okay? You have diagonal parking. You're going to fit a lot more cars,
yeah,
okay? And the parking that we have on 10th and Washington, right there in the corner,
hmm,
since 1990, I wanted to buy the whole block because there was a two-story frame house there at one time, big white house there. I wanted to buy that, but we didn't do it. But what we have right now, you can build garage parking. Why is it important there? Because it's close to the heart of downtown,
yeah,
10th and Washington, okay? Then I think we can do a joint venture with the county
hmm,
because back then when I was mayor, like I tell you, I've been involved with this. Back then, Gene Gibbs was the president of First National Bank. It became Mercantile Bank. He was a president. I talked to him about it. He was willing to give us all the land on Elizabeth Street that is now owned by the county, the parking
right,
there. Okay.
right,
He was willing to give it to us for $1 a year.
hmm,
And Walgreens, who I made happen, they were not going to build here. I made happen. They were willing to build retail on the first floor and garage parking up there and joint venture with the city. They were going to pay for it.
hmm,
They were going to pay for it and have garage parking up there and retail. We were going to be partners. But again, it didn't happen. I left. It didn't happen. What I would like to do now is do a joint venture with the county.
hmm,
Okay. And because that land is good land, but it's not being used to the highest and best use. You can only put one car at a time on that ground level.
Right.
But if you were to build retail and garage parking going up right there in joint venture with the county, you're going to have parking for downtown all you want. The restaurants, the retail stores, you will bring better retail stores if you do it the way I'm proposing. And somebody can come up with a better idea. I'm open to it. But this is my concept, that it can be done, and it has a lot of potential, especially if we build the weir to where the water they're not going to do it. I can do it. That's why I want to go back as mayor or city manager. But what happened? Elon Musk, and I know why people are saying that it's only for a certain few. Elon Musk, from what I understand, gave us $10 million for downtown revitalization. The mayor went and got his share. Then other people that got but it was only their little group, got like 400,000. It was only their little group. It wasn't for the common good. It was for personal interest. In other words, I own a property. You give me a grant for 400,000. I rehab it. You're making more rich. You're making me more rich with Elon's money. It's private property, and you just invested in my property with your grant. That's not right. That is not for the common good. The mayor took the money. It's not for the common good. It was for him. Okay.
So where did the rest?
What I would do?
Go ahead.
What Elon did? He took back $8 million.
Oh, I was going to ask you that. So what happened to the rest? I was going to ask you that. What happened to the rest of the?
Well, you saw the shenanigans. From what I understand, he took back $8 million. What I would have done with the $10 million was what I'm just telling you. I would have built either a garage parking there on 10th and Washington. I would have changing the way we park wouldn't cost much. Okay. I would bring lighting. I would increase security downtown. I went with my wife downtown and she didn't want to go back. Yeah. Why? Because you see a lot of people that shouldn't, they're homeless, that shouldn't be there, urinating on the sidewalk or laying on the sidewalk. And it was at night. She didn't feel secure. I would have security there.
So you're saying
you need those things.
So you're saying that we lost the $8 million that Elon donated to us. That's what you're saying, right? That he took.
Well, I think he had good intentions to revitalize downtown, but he saw that special interest went in there, self-serving. Yeah. You see, remember early on when we talked, you got to go in there for the common good. You're not going to please everybody, but if you go for the common good, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
And downtown parking is for the common good. Rehabbing your property is not for the common good. That's for you.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Now, sir, with regards to the current garage parking that was built, what is it?
Too far away.
Well, I understand that, but what is it being used for now? My understanding is we can't use it.
You probably know more about it than I do.
I mean, there was rumors out there that there was illegal migrants living in the parking garage or something like that.
I have no clue. I couldn't comment on that either way because I don't know.
Okay.
Get me in there, and I'll fix the problem.
Yeah.
I promise you, I'll fix the problem.
Well, like I said, this is the first time that I had heard that money was taken back from the Musk Foundation. I had never heard that before, but I kept on wondering, well,
that's what I heard.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. You need to check it out, but that's what I heard.
Yeah. Yeah, because definitely, I know that they've done a few murals down there for couple of $1,000s, but, the question is, what happened to the rest of the money? Because I know there's been some lights installed down there, but I don't think those took $10 million,
Well, again, if he has not taken it back, if the money's still there, I don't have a problem with it as long as they use it for the common good.
Yeah.
That means it's not there for Pat Ahumada to rehab one of his properties.
Yeah.
It's not there.
Yeah. One of our viewers is saying that immigrants were being housed there at the garage level. So the question was, are we getting paid by the federal government to keep them there? I mean, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've got a couple of citizens out there, and I guess everybody's in shock, with the part about the 8 million. But let's talk a little about SpaceX, sir. I don't know if this was during your first or second term, or if they even approached your administration at the time. But what is your overall opinion of SpaceX? Do you see it positively or negatively towards the city?
Okay, Ramiro Villarreal says, where they're reporting the money Elon took back. Ramiro, I don't know. I'm just telling you, this is what I heard. I'm not in there. You can check it out. But my understanding is that Elon Musk saw that the money was not being used the way he envisioned it, and he took 8 million out of the 10 million that was left back. So you need to check that out. But as far as your question there, SpaceX came to us when I was mayor still in 2011, about 6-7 months before. If you remember, the state of Texas was in negotiations with Elon Musk, and we were competing with, I think, Freeport at the time. Okay. And when it came to us through the economic development, I was informed that that it was going to come to Brownsville or Boca Chica Beach, but I could not let people know, even though it was campaigning. It would have been a good deal for me to know and let it out. But I was sworn to secrecy not to let it out because we were still in negotiations with the state of Texas. Our contribution at the time was supposed to be $1 million. So I kept that a secret. I left office, and then of course it was a done deal. Trey comes in, he tries to take credit that he made it happen. He didn't make shit happen.
Now, let me ask you, with regards to as far as security goes, as you know, there's, lately we've had a lot of issues with Mexico, a lot of cartel violence. We had a few weeks ago, a couple of people get kidnapped. It's really impacting, our relationship with Matamoros. Is there? I mean, I know it's more of a federal level, and there's not a whole lot the city can do. But I mean, what is your concern over the overall impact of Brownsville? Not so much from a violence standpoint, because I don't think the violence would ever spill over to this side, but tourism-wise, I mean, I think it would have an impact. People wanting to come down here. I mean, what's your take on all of this? What can we do?
Well, Daniel, let me tell you this. Let's go back to the Mark Kilroy
incident
murder.
Yeah.
That was when I was there.
Yeah.
We made a extraordinary effort to I'm talking about the Mark Kilroy. The cloud of what happened was over us at the time. I was mayor in the 90s. I made an extraordinary effort to build alliances with Matamoros and Tamaulipas to market our city in a better light, because everywhere in the world they said don't go to South Texas. Okay. And we brought Johnny Canales for free, and we videotaped. We brought Miss USA. We did a lot of good things, and got a lot done. I think that's what needs to continue. No matter what's happening on the federal level, that still needs to continue. Char Days is a good example, okay? But it doesn't stop there. It goes on all year. I was criticized for having good relationships with Matamoros, but if it wasn't for the relationship I had with Tamaulipas and Matamoros, Los Tomates was never going to get built. Okay? And look at it now. We benefit. They had told the county no. Why? Because back then the county judge pushed Los Indios and got Los Indios built.
Right.
But that was a bridge. That was dead from the day one.
It still is dead.
It's still dead. And Manuel Cavazos Lerma, the governor back then, told me and Tomas Yerrington that he was not going to approve Los Tomates because Los Indios need to be in the black before he approves another bridge, which makes sense. But Cavazos Lerma wanted to build an intercoastal from Matamoros all the way to Altamira. That was a big, aggressive project. And Jim Cruz, the port director, was criticizing that project because he felt it was going to compete with the Port of Brownsville. So I used to go horseback riding with Tomas and the governor.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked things out. I said, look, man, we need help with los tomates. It's stuck. And then he told me, look, if los indios gets in the black, I'm not going to approve it. Mm-hmm. So then I said, what can I do to help you change your mind? And what they asked me of is get Jim Cruz to not oppose the intercoastal, mm-hmm. because he was opposing. He says get Jim Cruz to not, and I'll consider it. So I went to talk to Jim Cruz, and I said, Jim, look, I know how you feel about the competition with the potential that they're going to open up a port over there and all that stuff. I said, but that's too far in the future, and it's aggressive, and it's not likely to happen. It's not feasible. Why? It's going to require a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But the first hurdle is going to be the environmentalists. Mm-hmm. Okay. I said, so you need to back off and criticize him. Will you stop criticizing? He agreed to it. Mm-hmm. He agreed to stop. Right. So I went back and I told him, okay, we're not going to criticize. That's how we got los tomates. Mm-hmm. And Tony Garza can take credit for it, but that's not true. The way it happened, you can ask people, it's in the record. Los tomates got built because Cavazos Lerma wanted to build the intercoastal, and Jim Cruz agreed to quit criticizing. So I think we need to continue with that. Like I said, as mayor, I would continue the relationship I had before. We get a lot. I lost a brother over there, by the way. Yeah. We never found him. So I know what can happen. But we are tied to the hip. If it wasn't for Matamoros or the people from Mexico, Brownsville would be in a depression mm-hmm. during economic times. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of people, because of the insecurity over there, we're benefiting here. We have a lot of businesses that opened up here. Mm-hmm. Go to Rodriguez Tile. They're from Mexico.
Yes, sir.
Go to Super Cream. They're from Tampico.
Yep.
And you will find a lot of people living here from Mexico. They contribute to our economy. Yeah. So we need to keep that relationship going and understand how important it is. We can't isolate ourselves.
Right.
We depend too much on Mexico, and that helps soften the recession. When everybody up north is having a hard time, with us, it softens it. Okay.
Right.
So we're blessed. And I think we're making a mistake by just showing up for charter days.
Now, sir, I wanted to ask you with regards to venues in general. I mean, and I don't know if you were mayor at the time. I can't remember, but obviously, we made a transition from the Civic Center over to the Event Center. And then we built the sports park, and that appears to be underutilized. But it seems like we didn't gain much convention space when we moved from the Civic Center over to the Event Center. To be honest with you, sir, it's hard to even book anything at the Event Center because it's always booked, and obviously it's small. But, we still have problems every year where our university is out having their graduations over in the outside in the heat. The high schools are over there having, and we just don't have the large enough venue space. And I know that there was a proposition by the county last year for an arena to be built, and maybe that would have been a solution to our venue issues. I don't know. Obviously, there was a lot of for and against, but I mean, what can we do to increase our venue capacity? Because obviously the Event Center isn't cutting it, and the sports park, well, God knows. I mean, we've only used it largely for vaccinations and COVID testing. I mean, what's your take? I mean, do we need something, and how can we get something so that our high school kids and parents are not sweating out during graduation, and UTRGV's not over there having ceremonies at the outside? I mean, what's your take? I mean, what did we do wrong? I mean, something went wrong with the Event Center, and something obviously went wrong with the sports park at the time.
First of all, I was against giving the college the Jacob Brown because it was a good quinceañera hall, if you want to call it that. Okay,
Right.
um, I was against that, and also it generated the first year that I imposed parking fees on the Jacob Brown because we were in a deficit, if you recall.
Uh-huh.
Uh, the college was using it for free and charging the students a parking fee, and I demanded that we get a parking fee.
Right.
And Robert Esparza was the traffic director, and I got the city manager to fence in the Jacob Brown, and we started charging a parking fee. The first year we generated 223,000.
Hmm.
That helped us balance the budget. So that was a cash cow that we gave away.
Hmm.
Okay, I was against that. Now the sports center, my good friend Dr. Zabaleta, Joe Zabaleta. I miss him, I really do. Uh, him and Ernesto de Leon and those people there at the time, uh, they were for building a sports park for us, but their budget was 12 to 13 million. The problem where we got into a problem was when we had that jerk Charlie Atkinson on the commission. He was a sports jock. Him and Charlie Cavler. They went all out on the uh, sports park, and then went from a budget of 12 million to last time I heard it was 35 million.
Hmm.
It was overbuilt, and there's no buildings on it to speak of. So I think they just went crazy with the money,
Hmm.
and that was a mistake. I think right now that uh, what they were planning to build like a Dodge Arena, but I think that's for private enterprise to do. That's for developers to do, not for us. Okay, we shouldn't get into it,
Hmm.
and I don't think we should guarantee anything, in my opinion. Okay,
Hmm.
I think if we wanted to do something for more space, I think we can do it.
Hmm.
Uh, we just blew 125 million. So I mean, we can do it if we're smart and do it the smart way. I would say consider the sports park as a location.
Right.
Utilize some of that land and complement it with what it has to offer. Something that could complement it. Okay. One of my projects was, and I know there was a lot of opposition, but maybe now would be the time. Um, I had proposed back then for to do an exchange where
Right.
Cummings, you know, to do an exchange with BISD back then.
Hmm.
I proposed that we do an exchange to where we give them half of the land over there at the Brownsville Country Club golf
Hmm.
course
Right.
to build a school. It's very valuable land to build a school, and we would get Cummings to expand the zoo.
Right.
I had been pushing for that since the 90s. Okay, and that way it would the zoo is a crown jewel, and I think not enough emphasis is being put on the crown jewel, the zoo. So I would consider giving BISD half the land to where they could build a school there, and the other half uh, they could use it and convert it to a 9-hole golf course.
Hmm.
Still keep the golf course to where it's open to the public and also can be used by students to where they have a golf part of their curriculum. Um, so that would help there, and maybe even build a golf course over there where the sports park is with a convention center.
Right.
Something that would complement, bring people in because people like to come for conventions and stuff like that. But it's got to be big enough. It's got to have parking, but also you have to have amenities like maybe a hotel or a golf course, something. So I think that would be something to look at. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying it's something to consider to where the land would be better utilized.
Hmm. Yeah, well, one of the things that the zoo did, and I was a little in shock that they did it, and I don't know, what the, if how much of the necessity is, they raised their prices quite a bit. It's about $18 now for an adult to get in, and about 16 for a child. I mean, that's a little pricey. Some people tell me that that's the average price in zoos across the country now. I found out that in Chicago, everybody goes to the zoo for free. Uh, but
But you
it
want to
is.
know, but you want to know why, Dan?
Uh huh.
Because the city has been very pinche in funding the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
Up until recently, it's increased the budget, but the zoo has done miracles with the little money they get, and it's been a shame.
Mm-hmm.
It's shameful. The city needs to treat it more generously,
Yeah.
and it's starting to. And I'm glad to hear that. But it should have been doing it all along. But it still needs to do more. That's why their prices is high, because if not, they can't survive. If the city were to support the zoo more than spend and blow 2.3 million in Casa Line on 2.3 million in land and 125 million over here and a million in Imagine Brownsville, support the zoo, the prices would be lower. Now, there's a question here about an aerospace museum. Let me tell you what part of my project was. This would be in conjunction. I wrote Elon Musk a letter. He never responded. But I proposed this to him. I said, if you can help me, because the city is not paying attention, to build a weir.
Mm-hmm.
If we can build a weir, it will serve good for SpaceX. They need water. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we can have enough water for 50 years for the city and the development over there, SpaceX. If you help me with getting this weird bill, I don't want your money. I just want your support. And I think with good relationships with Mexico, we can get Mexico to build. And you might think I'm crazy, but it's okay to fail and it's okay to dream big. But if you don't do that, you'll never know if you can do it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Since the 90s, I've envisioned that we can build the first world binational theme park
Mm-hmm.
over there close to the river by the weir. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be binational. You have land on both sides. It will be fenced in,
Mm-hmm.
half in Mexico, half in the United States, like a Disneyland. If you want to go to Disneyland, you got to go to Florida or you got to go to Los Angeles.
Right.
Here, you would get all this mid USA coming here.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have to go over there. And you get all of Mexico and Latin America that can't go to Disneyland in Florida. Or this
Right.
would be a golden opportunity and make money for everybody to this theme park, to where you come in from the Mexican side and you can come to the US side as long as you stay within the compound.
Mm-hmm.
You have hotels and everything, the American culture, the Mexican culture. But if you want to leave on the US side, you show your passport. You show your passport like at the bridge here. You show your passport and you're allowed. We'd have customs and immigration and everything there. That would be done. Along with, and what I proposed to Elon was, I would want to do a space camp
Mm-hmm.
because SpaceX is there.
Right.
Do a real nice space camp and turn it over to all the nonprofit community organizations like the Lions, the Kiwanis.
Mm-hmm.
Turn it over to them to manage it, to where they send these kids to camp
Mm-hmm.
and learn about space.
Right.
I think that would be a great project. Those were some of the things I proposed to Elon, but he never responded.
Sir.
I was hoping to get there to be mayor
Yeah.
to push that.
Yeah. Sir, one last question, because we've gone 2 hours, believe it or not.
Well, I hope it was interesting.
Oh,
for
it
your-
definitely
for your
has
lis-
been, sir.
for
I
your
mean,
listeners.
you bring a lot of historical perspective to some of the ills that we are suffering today. So it is definitely.
That's why people want me to. That's why people urge me to run for mayor.
Yeah. I know that early on in the podcast you mentioned that you took credit for restoring airline service to the city. It had been several years prior that there was no airline service.
There was no
But
airline service.
Yeah, but since then, sir, one of the things that and of course, now we've got this really nice airport and everything, but the biggest problem I think that we still have, and I know that the city just lured another airline in, a low cost airline. The complaint has always been that the ticket prices here in Brownsville to fly to Houston or to Dallas are more expensive than flying from Harlingen to Houston or Dallas. Can you give us some insight into why that's the case? Is it the airlines just being stingy or gouging the citizens of Brownsville, or are we a different market? Some people say, well, we're a business market. We're not a vacation market like Harlingen is. But obviously now we lured an airline that supposedly is flying to vacation destinations. But what's your take on why they've been higher? Because they are higher.
Well, let me give you a little bit of history. Back in the 90s, it was a cargo airport. It was strictly cargo. It was not passenger. And I had pushed to bring in a passenger airline. And the credit really goes to Kirby Ligero.
Mm-hmm.
But it was my initiative that made it happen. And it requires a leader to introduce the initiatives. I went to Kirby and I said, look, I want to bring flights to our airport. And I wanted to start with smaller planes because, we had none. He says, no, he says, we can make that happen. Sure enough, he says, I know people in Continental and Delta and this and that. So I sent him and Butch Barbosa to meet with him.
Mm-hmm.
And they went and met and they came back and says, Continental's interested, but they want a subsidy guaranteed for seats, tickets not sold for over a period of 5 years. So I got some opposition to that. And one of them was a commissioner. So the way I turned that around, I appointed him to the committee and he got on board. And then we got the chamber involved because there was opposition to it. Believe it or not, there was opposition. I got the chamber involved to pick up a petition, signing supporting the airline, because that was needed to convince Continental that people were going to use the airline. And it worked out good. They came on board, and the subsidy ended in 5 years. Mm-hmm. Then I wanted to bring international flights, and we had a commuter flight, a small commuter flight going to Monterrey and like that. But the city would not agree to waive the landing fees, so they left, which was a mistake. Mm-hmm. And I still think we need to bring an international flight and bring a flight that goes to Tampico, Veracruz, the Caribbean, Mexico City, Monterrey, Mexico City, so we can compete, okay? And it's doable. But somebody like myself, I got the governor. He took me to meet with the CEO of Mexicana and Aeromexico. He personally took me. And that's what we need. We need those kind of relationships to make these things happen. And they can happen. Okay. Now going back to your question there. Yes, people will go to Harlingen to take Southwest, which maybe $100 less, okay, than go to Brownsville. So that's a big mistake. But we can't order the carriers here mm-hmm. to lower the price. We can't do that. Mm-hmm. Now, what we can do is perhaps get the hotel industry, the tourism industry, to do some packets mm-hmm. to where it markets outside of Brownsville and invites people, hey, we're going to give you a discount at the hotel. We're going to give you a discount at the restaurant. We're going to do some things like that to where it help offset the cost that is higher for people to fly into mm-hmm. Brownsville. But the way to do that is bring competition. Mm-hmm. So if we can bring an airline that will compete literally dollar for dollar with Southwest, then you will see the other airlines go down. But we got to find the right airline. So again, it requires good management, a good mayor to make these things happen. Because if you're going to wait for them to happen, it may happen, but we're here to make them happen.
Right.
Take the lead, take the initiative, right. Introduce it. Because let me tell you, when I introduced to bring a commercial airline, I want to tell you, Irv Downing was there, John Reed was there, and Bobby Duffy was there. They invited me to Texas Pan American Bank mm-hmm. for lunch. You know what they told me? They were listening. But you know what Bobby Duffy told me?
Mm.
Don't bring Continental. He ordered me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bring Continental. He said, Harlingen is a Metroplex airport.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I told him?
Mm-hmm.
And many people in my position would probably say, okay, you know, you gave me a nice steak dinner. Thank you. I'll do your bidding. Pat Ahumada is not that way.
Mm-hmm.
I was ordered not to bring Continental. You know what I told him? Because he said, Harlingen is a Metroplex airport. He was good friends with Mayor Carr,
Mm-hmm.
okay, back then. He was looking out for Mayor Carr.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I told him? I said, with all due respect, I'm the mayor of Brownsville, not Harlingen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Continental came to be. Because I am steadfast.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be bought. I can't be swayed. I'm not going to let special interests in the door.
Yeah.
I, I told one of my nemesis, Cardenas, good man. He always wanted everything for him as a developer.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Mr. Cardenas, if you bring me something that's good for Brown, because back then we didn't have sidewalks, and I forced them to build sidewalks and pay for it. I forced them to do it. Back then it wasn't being done, where developers didn't have to build sidewalks. I said, Mr. Cardenas, if you bring me something good for Brownsville, I'll be your biggest advocate.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want something from me that's not going to benefit my city, it's going to benefit you only, I'm going to go against you. That doesn't mean I don't like you. That doesn't mean, you know, we can't be friends. We can respect each other. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah. All righty. Well, like I said, we've actually been on for 2 hours, sir. Is there anything you want to say out to the viewers that you pretty much haven't covered? Basically, it's your closing
Yeah,
statement.
Daniel, I think this is very important. We can fail trying, but let's not stop trying. Believe in your city. I'm asking people to believe in me. Stand up, rise up to the occasion right now against an injustice that was committed, not only against me, but against the voters. They took away your right to elect the mayor of your choice. They passed an ordinance in 2021 with 4,264 votes out of 90,000 registered voters and out of 187,000 citizens in the city of Brownsville. And they used that ordinance to go back 32 years to disqualify me and take me off the ballot. You know they're wrong. You know this is wrong. Stand up and rise with me and write me my name on the ballot, Pat Ahumada for mayor. Do it in protest, and I will fight all the way to the end to get on the ballot in the runoff within my power. And go to my GoFund page. I got a GoFund page, Pat Ahumada for mayor. If you can donate $5, no donation is too small, $1.
Mm-hmm.
But show your support for Pat Ahumada for mayor and that you believe in Brownsville and that you stand with me for the right reason, to do the right thing for the city and to stand up against special interests. They've had a free ride in the city and PUB, and it needs to stop. We can't afford to continue to throw away 125 million. We can't afford to continue with high utility rates. We can't afford to continue with high property taxes. They don't raise your tax rate. You know how they do it?
Mm-hmm.
They raise your assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to stop that. By the amount that we take in more in revenue because they raise your assessment, I'm going to lower your tax rate. That's my plan, to lower your taxes. See, Pat Ahumada has a plan. They don't have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
They give you talk. It sounds good. They pander to you. It sounds good, and you go vote for them.
Mm-hmm.
But see what they've done while they've been there. They haven't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you think they're going to do something for you now?
Yeah.
If you elect them, they're not.
Yeah.
They just want the title at your expense, so they can go out with their friends, special interests, and benefit. Yeah. It stops now. Write Pat Ahumada for mayor. Go to Pat Ahumada for mayor. GoFundMe and join the fight.
All righty, sir. And when is the election? When does it start?
May 6th.
Okay, but is there but there's early voting also, right?
April 24th through May 2nd. Okay. When you start early voting, get your friends, say, hey, we got nothing to lose. The other two are not in it for the right reasons. Write in Pat Ahumada for mayor. Early voting, April 24th through May 2nd. Election day, May 6th. And God bless you, and say a prayer for our city. If I get there, you're going to have your biggest advocate. If I don't get there, I'm still with you, and I pray for my city. I love you all, and thank you for the opportunity to come to you through Daniel right now, Brownsville Tech Live.
All righty, sir. Well, we definitely appreciate you for coming on tonight. I know it was a long podcast, but you're welcome at any time. Whether you win or you lose, we'll definitely call you up. Once again, we wish you the best of luck in the next couple of weeks. And if we've got an open slot here down the road to invite you in before the election, we'll definitely do so, sir.
Daniel, let me give you my phone number, 956-572-8172. I've always given out my phone number. You can call me. You can call those guys. They'll never return your call. You can call me, 956-572-8172. I was a full-time mayor. Somebody's asking about the Casa Nylon. They paid 2.3. It was worth $500,000-600,000 at the time.
Wow. Wow.
Thank you, Daniel. God bless you all.
All right, sir. Have a good night. Everybody, that's it for Brownsville Tech Live. And we will see you tomorrow. We will have Carlos Cascos in the house. He will be talking about the proposed charter propositions, which, sir, we didn't talk about, but maybe on the next time when you come back, we'll talk about that.
I'm voting against all of them. I don't trust them.
All righty, sir. Sir, you have a good night.
Good night.
All righty.